USCIS has asked Congress for $1.2 billion so it does not have to furlough 70% of its employees. Two congressmen have just come out and said that is not true and that by the end of the fiscal year, they're going to have a surplus and not a deficit. Who's lying? Someone's got to be. This video is going to try to figure that out. Hi, thank you for joining me to talk about immigration. My name is Andrea Szew, and I'm the managing attorney at Szew Law Group in Los Angeles, California. I've been doing immigration for almost 20 years now, and I put together all these videos to give you short, concise, and easy to understand information on all types of immigration topics. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. I release videos at least once a week, sometimes more, to keep you up to date on all the latest immigration topics that you need to know. And boy, is there a lot happening in immigration these days. Okay, let's get into this really interesting topic. But in order for us to understand, let's go back a little bit. So in May of 2020, USCIS came out and asked Congress for $1.2 billion. They said if they don't get that money, then they're going to have to furlough almost 70% of their staff. Now, they claimed at that time that they were going to have a deficit of $571 million at the end of their fiscal year, which is October 1, 2020. Now let's fast forward to just this past week. Two senators, Peter Leahy and Jon Tester, came forward and said that is not true and stated that they would have a surplus at the end of the year of almost $121 million. Where does that discrepancy come from? And Jon Tester and Patrick Leahy did not disclose where they got that information, and USCIS did not state otherwise. They did not rebut that and say that that is not true. What USCIS did do is say that they will postpone the furlough that was supposed to happen on August 3rd, 2020 to August 31st, 2020. So there must be some truth in what those two senators put forth, or USCIS would not be able to survive from August 3rd to August 31st, would they? So we have to remember that application fees are the main source of income for USCIS. When you pay your application fees or your petition fees, you are basically the primary source of income for USCIS. Therefore, when coronavirus happened, USCIS is claiming that that reduction in filings has put them in the position they are. Also, we must understand that USCIS is stating to Congress that the way they're going to pay back this $1.2 billion loan is by doing a 10% surcharge on all applications that you file. So when you file an application now, they're going to put a 10% surcharge on that application fee in order to pay back the loan. Also, you have to understand and remember that at the same time that all this is happening, USCIS is moving forward with increasing application fees in general. So before this even happened, way before this happened back in November of 2019, they were already talking about increasing the application fees, and that discussion has not stopped. In fact, it's almost happening imminently. And that's going to be about a 21% increase on all the application fees. So not only are they going to ask for $1.2 billion, they're going to put a surcharge on all the application fees you're already paying, and now they're going to increase those fees on top of it. Now, this is pretty heavy duty stuff if it is really not true, correct? If they really do not need this money, then what is really going on here? Now, according to the USCIS spokesperson, stated, and I will actually quote, "If we don't receive assistance from Congress and revenue continues at the current pace, we could possibly cover our planned expenses through the end of the fiscal year, which is October 1, 2020, but we would not be able to sustain operations into 2021. Okay, that is directly from USCIS themselves. So they're claiming that they will possibly have revenue to take them through to October 1, 2020, but not past that. So why is it the case, if that is true, what is really happening? So who is telling the truth here? USCIS or the two senators that have stepped forward and wrote this letter saying that it's not true and that they're going to end up with a surplus and not actually a deficit? Okay, so if USCIS is telling the truth and they are going to be at a deficit and they are going to have to furlough 70% of their employees imminently, then we need to take care of this and we need to get them the money that they need. Maybe not the entire $1.2 billion, but a fraction of that. But with that comes responsibility on USCIS. They must become more efficient with their time. They must become more transparent with what's going on with the funds that they're receiving from application fees. Okay? They need to stop suspending premium processing. They need to make it more inviting to apply for applications in the United States instead of discouraging by having inefficiencies in there that are causing rejections of applications solely because one field was left blank in an application, so they send the whole entire application back. To give you an example, there needs to be changes on the side of immigration to account for the need for $1.2 billion. Now, if they are not telling the truth and the senators are in fact correct that they're going to end up with a surplus at the end of the year, then this is insane. That the fact that USCIS would come forward and say that they're going to furlough 13,000 US employees when they don't need to, in addition to increasing filing fees, slowing processing, stopping the printing of EAD cards and green cards, all these things that are happening that they're claiming because of the lack of funds, this is a real problem. And it needs to be ripped open and it needs to be dissected and it needs to be understood why this is actually happening and why USCIS would come forward and say we need $1.2 billion when in fact they really don't need the money. And if they need some money, but not to the extent of $1.2 billion, then again, they have to open their books, they have to become more transparent, and they need to find the inefficiencies that are already existing that is causing possibly not the revenue that they want, but not necessarily the deficit that they're claiming. I think, like the American Immigration Lawyers Association has said, we need to hit the pause button and we need to really look at this very closely, and we need to look at it very closely, very quickly, because to furlough 13,000 US employees from a government agency is not acceptable. And all those people need their jobs, along with all the individuals that have filed applications with USCIS and are waiting on their processing of them, or the ones that are approved and are sitting waiting for green cards to be actually printed and EAD cards to be printed so they can continue working and traveling and living their lives in this country. That needs to happen immediately. I hope this was informational. I hope some answers come out in the next couple days to give us resolution to who is really telling us the truth. Is USCIS telling us the truth, or are these two senators telling us the truth? Or is the truth somewhere in between? Thank you all for joining me today, and I hope this video gave you a lot to think about, because I know it gave me a lot to think about. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. And thank you, and look forward to seeing you next time.